one of these just isn't enough for you. Now, two things I want to point out. The way this mounts up, you can see this is your quick release bracket. Going to slide these pins in here, it's going to hit here on the sides. So what you're going to do is take and put a piece of 1/4 inch polyboard. I got this one from West Marine and cut it to size underneath this bracket. So whenever we set that up, you can see this is actually going to go underneath this and give you a little bit more room so that you can slide the pins in directly on each side. Alright, so this is another important part. After we get this all mounted up, I need to check everything for clearance. Once the motor is placed, I'm going to go ahead and run your motor out and check underneath and make sure you got room between your handle and the shaft on the motor, because this is going to flex whenever you run. So you want to make sure you got a little bit of room in between here. Everything looks good there. I think we'll be all right. On. Looks like it's going to work. Here we go. Looks like it's good to go now. I had to add another rubber washer underneath this back side to lift everything up because I still didn't have the clearance I needed to pull this bar out. But if you look closely, right here I still have my clearance by 1/4 inch. It's needed to pull it off if need be. And we can put it back in. Everything goes good. Motor can be deployed now. and it holds steady. Everything's mounted solid. I'm gonna go ahead and mount these screws back in these holes here, simply for aesthetics. You can do whatever you want in that situation, but I don't like having open holes. Now we gotta figure out where to mount these power cords. I'm probably gonna trim this back to about here, and I'll mount the plug somewhere in here. There is a kit. This is a Marinco. It's a regular Motorguide medium duty plug, set up for either 36, 24, 12 volt, however you want to do it. And pretty simple to set up. So we gotta drill an 1/8" hole somewhere in the hole. I'd prefer it be a vertical wall, but I don't think there's enough vertical wall anywhere for me to get clearance to mount this through the hole. So I imagine I'm gonna do a hole straight through the hole right here. And like I said, I'll just lengthen this wire up, make it shorter so that the plug goes right in here and it's out of the way. I think that's my best option, and that's what I'm gonna do now. Inch and 1/8 hole saw bit. I'm taking mount it. Should match up pretty good. I like to use a center punch whenever I'm marking my holes. Gives me a good starting point. As you see, that made a nice clean hole. Should drop right in there pretty easily. Get the gasket for it real quick and we'll put that in. They recommend using 6-gauge wire. So if I'm gonna run this from here to here, I could probably cut that wire off somewhere in here and still have plenty. So we're gonna cut it right here. All right, I could actually use this piece inside for my battery and use this piece outside for my plug. All right, so we gotta stick these wires through those holes. And we want to kind of line them up. Show where you're going to plug it. They're numbered also. 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to use 1 and 2. So I'll put the ground through number 2.
I believe one is a larger plug, yeah. So one goes to the top. Shove that through there. Two goes through the second hole. Right through there. This piece here just kind of clamps down your wire, keeps it in there so whenever you pull a tug on it, it doesn't pull the wires out. Make sure I keep everything lined up. Number one is up top, that's my hot. The red wire. Yeah, run that through. Alright. Get that in there. I want to tighten down number one. I'm going to make sure number two is loose. Get the wires right on number two. And go ahead and place that in the second hole. That's my ground wire. And if you're running a 36 volt, you'd run on this 30. Alright. So I got my plugs in. My negative's going here to number two. My red's going to one. It's my hot wire. I got the wires crimped. This is my cover. I'm going to slide that back over this. Alright, that plug's ready to go. Alright, next. This one still has the ends on it for the battery, so we're going to leave that alone. So I got to get these split. Separate those for this plug, which is going to mount in this hole. What I want to do here is also match up. You can't see it, but there's a number one here, a 3 up here, and a 2 down here. So I'm going to take and strip these. And the guide says you do about a 1/2 inch on the instruction manual. I'll go about a 1/2 inch back and strip these wires. Alright. Again, if you're using the same plug and receptacle, then you can go based off of their number and system. Otherwise, make sure you got your positive 12, the red color, going to number one right here. Make sure it's loose. Just go and unscrew it. Slide that number one in. Make sure it's the red. Tighten that up. Go over here to number two, which is this bottom one. Unhook that. Unscrew it, I'm out. Maybe not that far. Take your negative, which also has a number two. Slide that into the number two slot. I'm going to tighten that down. Because these wires are loose, I can just pull them back and run them through. Otherwise, you want to run them through the hole first. This is the nut that goes on the back side of this. I want it to go either way, won't matter on that. Spin it around this way. Slide that down and start tightening her up. That gasket's going to help with it being waterproof. It's not going to be 100% waterproof, but I'm not too worried about anything getting in there. It'll be good enough for it to seal off, keep any of the bad stuff out. That'll be my leads going to my battery whenever that comes. Purchased 100 amp hour Dakota lithium. We'll see how that works. All right. All that tightened up, I'll be able to take this, plug that in right there. She's set. So that's good to go. It's a 60 amp breaker. Running that 6 gauge wire is going to have more draw in it. And it's disconnected right now. So this is a 60 amp breaker hooked up on the positive side with the red wire. It goes to number 1 over here. This will be my negative. Go over here on the negative terminal. Make sure those are tight real quick. That's all good. Terminal's here. Make sure that's getting tight still. I don't want that coming loose on me. We plug in the trolling motor plug. Arrow up in there. Twist it. And we got power. Well, now you can see the container. Got the Motorguide Xi3 55 pound thrust 12 volt system. Mounted, quick detach. Going to a plug up here on the bow. It's got a cover. Carry that on down. In the Tiki edition. To get to where we're going to use the 1103 Torpedo. Once we get there, we'll deploy the Motorguide Xi3 with spot lock.